Now everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everybody, Cantonese Cat here. SOFI, I promise you I'm not going to talk too much about like the past because I know you guys are probably interested in what's going to happen in the future, but I just want to spend a couple of minutes really showing some of the things I have shown here. This is a post from 2023. I really started buying SOFI a little tiny bit right around up here, around like 14 bucks at the range. In 2021, when it broke down that range, I stopped buying, but I started picking up whenever price was underneath like 8 bucks, whenever it was just kind of having this really brutal accumulation zone. The majority of it, I think I ended up buying probably the bulk of it around late 2022 to, throughout the entire 2023. I was just accumulating like nonstop, and that's probably where most of my, I'll say like 90 to 95% of my shares were accumulated around that range. And my cost average right now is like 7.3, 7.4, I don't remember exactly, but I've been really trying to accumulate down here at this range, and I remember buying, it was extremely scary too, back in May of 2023. The narrative was that banks were failing. There were banks that were going bankrupt and recession fears, great recession is coming. It was absolutely extremely scary, right? And here I was drawing the diamond. I was just drawing a diamond. And I was like, yeah, it felt scary. I have long-term conviction, but man, and it was on high volume too. So I was catching volume over here. And I remember a few people, I was having maybe like a few hundred followers at that time. And I remember a few people were like catching volume over here with me. And it was just absolutely insane. I'm glad that I did that in hindsight, but because of, and I only really started doing a lot of technical analysis around like 2022. So when I was doing this, I really was just catching a falling knife. But I identified an opportunity and I went for it. The other thing too that I was kind of seeing here, there's another pattern that I think also had worked out pretty well. I think throughout March 2024, I was kind of identifying this thing here, where it just seems like bears were just kind of going downstairs and bulls were taking an elevator up. Bears go downstairs, bulls take an elevator up. It just seems like it's just kind of happening over and over again. In October, it seems like it's the same patterns kind of playing out. The other thing too is I was kind of speculating back in March where price were having its initial breakout and the support band was initially serving as a little bit of support here for SOFI. Price kind of went down underneath a little bit, but it kind of cooled down here a little bit. And I think SOFI was kind of doing the same thing here back in March 2023 with what Bitcoin did before its big giant breakout. In October 2024, this seems to be realized right here so far. So I'm just saying, like, sometimes fractals are nice to look at, and sometimes they work out. If I just simply go back to the SOFI chart here, again, what I was talking about is this is a stock that has its personality. Every single stock has its personality. What I mean by that is, you look at Tesla. What is Tesla's personality? Tesla's personality is this: it always looks like it's going to roll over. Ever since its inception, it always looks like it's going to roll over, but it doesn't. Always looks like it's going to roll over, but it doesn't. Always looks like it's going to roll over, but it doesn't. Always looks like it's going to roll over, but it doesn't. And it just keep doing this to retail. Like, it looks like it's just going to keep crashing, but it never does, right? SOFI, what is the character of SOFI? SOFI is basically doing the opposite of what you think the stock market would do. Usually you hear the term where bears go down the elevator and bulls take the stairs up, right? And bulls go down the elevator. In this particular case, really ever since the big giant plummet throughout 2022, once it starts stabilizing, really bears just been taking the stairs down. And every single time when bears expend a lot of energy on the way down, all it takes just maybe a few weeks for the bulls to kind of really, revert the entire price action. Bears took about a couple months, to walk down the stairs. Bulls erased it in about a month or two, right? Again, bears, same thing. Bulls, same thing. Bears over here, how long is a downtrend over here? All the way from like 10 bucks all the way down to like 6, right? You're talking about a downtrend that lasted since December 2023 all the way down to like July 2024. I would even argue over here in like August of 2024. You have a downtrend over here that has lasted for almost close to a year. The bears are walking downstairs on declining volume. And what did the bulls do? The bulls erased the entire, how many like 9 or 10 months of price action in just 2 or 3 months, right? On increasing volume, leaving a gap open. Now, You also have a little bit of gap over here that wasn't filled. People are always speculating, hey, gaps have to fill. Price have to go back down to like 5.5. Not necessarily. It doesn't always have to. If it's a gap up and run and it's on high volume, looks like this is one of those runaway gaps that may not end up getting filled, right? And that's kind of what SOFI does. It's quite impulsive whenever it happens. So that's why I keep accumulating on the way down. I didn't care. I kept accumulating the 7s. I kept accumulating the 6s. I don't care. It's like I see this as an investment opportunity, and I see what the whales are doing. I see what the volumes are doing. And it was extremely brutal when I was doing it, but I'm glad I'm not chasing now. That is the entire past story. I spent about 5 minutes doing it. So let's talk about what's going to happen, because nobody cares about what happened in the past. But I think there's a little bit of a lesson to be learned there. Looking at the weekly chart, what do you see? I think that a lot of things to look at are no longer really applicable. For example, you look at the Ichimoku, it's already flew outside the Ichimoku. The katana that was building up here has already worked out. It's became extremely impulsive from that. Now, that's not going to be too entirely helpful. Now, you look at the 2-week Ichimoku cloud, though, it did break through the bottom of the cloud, and now it's kind of getting to the top of the cloud. I think we're getting close to some pretty strong resistance here. And this 2-week candle is not going to close in next week. So it could even potentially go all the way up to even higher, but I think there might be some resistance that's going to hit up here. We'll see. But so far, the weekly Ichimoku cloud is not going to tell you too much about like resistance and support. But even the 2-week Ichimoku cloud has something that's going on here too. It has a katana. It has a katana, potentially push price up a lot higher as well. Monthly Ichimoku cloud is not as mature, but initially at risk for developing a bearish cross, but you have reverted that. Right now, Tenkan is back above Kijun, and price is currently above for the first time, really ever. That price is currently above both the Tenkan, the blue line, and the Kijun, the red line, and you just had a bullish cross that literally just happened just now. This is the beginning of a bull trend. This could probably go on for quite some time. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have some pretty significant pullbacks, because all that is still very possible. If you look at the weekly Bollinger Band, that would tell you that things are extremely overextended. We closed the week way outside the upper Bollinger Band. Would I buy here? No. Would I sell here? I didn't. I wouldn't. I would consider if I was a trader, but I'm not a trader. And sometimes parabolic bull trend can go on for a while. Even when you had a very parabolic move and an inverted hammer here, it looks like it's just going to go down from there. It didn't. It made another move up higher. You would have thought that $10, 10.2 was going to be it. It went ahead and got close to $12, right? So just because you have something that looks extremely crazy doesn't necessarily mean that you're not going to make another higher high after that, after going sideways consolidating here a little bit, right? And I see a very similar trend here, except that this trend over here that's developing right now is more impulsive than this over here. It's like, it looks way more impulsive, like the Bollinger Band is expanding in a very rapid acceleration, both on the upside and to the downside. And you don't really have like these toppy candles. This inverted hammer over here was very toppy. You don't really have that. It looks like it might want to keep on going up, but I just don't know if I trust when the price is way outside the upper Bollinger Band. It can stay outside the upper Bollinger Band for a very long time. I just don't trust it. So if I was to buy, that's why I bought down here, right? If I was to buy here, I would feel extremely uncomfortable. But guess what? It could keep going up higher. Or another alternative is it can go sideways here a little bit, cool down, wait for the Bollinger Band to kind of catch up, and then keep going up higher, which is kind of what happened here, right? And if it ends up doing that, then you're talking about my target that I've been talking about for like a year or so, maybe even longer. Then you're talking about potentially like a year and a half, actually. Then you're talking about potentially hitting my target around like $14, which I think is entirely possible. If not by the end of 2024, potentially in Q1 of 2025. It really depends on consolidation over here sideways before going up. I don't know, like I think the downside risk would be the gap fill over here around $9. I don't necessarily see it going down to $8. But I think the gap, the risk downside is probably around $9 because you have a lot of very strong support here on the horizontal here as well. And you have a gap fill. So that's going to be potentially a little bit of a magnet here if it ends up having a correction. That might be an area where I might end up adding a little bit more before I just kind of let it do its thing. If it goes down to $8, I'm gonna load up again because the higher time frame looks extremely bullish. And the higher time frame is this. This is the monthly chart. And you can see that it clearly have flipped it initially from support here into resistance, and now you flipped it into support again. During the entire trend down here, you have something that has looking extremely bullish now, where price is currently at the upper part of Bollinger Band. It actually is expanding the Bollinger Band here a little bit. 20-month is curling up very nicely. The lower Bollinger Band is also expanding. This tells you that you got a very, very powerful bull trend that is building up here. It doesn't mean that it's not going to potentially come back down here to like $9 to back test some stuff before very bullish continuation. But if you buy here, if it goes down to $9 or even $8, you'll down like 20-30%. To me, it doesn't matter if you're able to handle the downside risk. To me, it doesn't matter because there's no guarantee. I hate being in this particular spot because if I buy here, it could go down 20-30%. It's entirely possible. But it doesn't have to. So I hate that possibility of not knowing. That's why I buy down here. So that's why I'm like catching some falling knives here, and I don't. It's really tough. The thing is, I do think that SOFI is going to keep going a lot higher over time, but it would take time because the Bollinger Band is just starting to get expanded. The Bollinger Band is just starting to get expanded here. So if I compare this chart here to another chart that I have talked a lot about, which is basically my biggest holding ever, is Palantir. You can see that the Bollinger Band morphology actually looks very, very similar between the two. I mean, Palantir just did the half, how do you say it, did the whole year kind of curving up, when SOFI just kind of did a whole year kind of sideways and curving down here a little bit. But regardless, the morphology of the Bollinger Band is uncunning. Like looks very, very similar in terms of where the spot is right here as opposed to here. You have now, over the last couple of months, you have a Bollinger Band expansion, right? And here, over the last month or so, you have Bollinger Band expansion, right? It's tough to know for sure where we're at right now if you look in a fractal between SOFI versus Palantir. Are we here at escape velocity, where the low Bollinger Band is starting to expand? Does it mean that we're going to get a bunch of green candles that are just way outside up a Bollinger Band and can keep going for like another half a year or so? Who knows how high this thing would go, right? Are we having the same thing here in SOFI? I don't know. That's a possibility. The Bollinger Band is expanding, so anything is possible, right? The other possibility is, could this candle that we have over here so far in October be the same as this candle over here that we had back in February for Palantir, right? Could that mean that we're going to having some kind of rising 2 or rising 3 where things just kind of consolidating sideways here for a little bit before further bullish continuation? If that ends up happening, I think the $9 is going to end up getting hit, right? I don't think anybody has the answer to that. I don't think anybody has the answer to that. If they know the answer and they tell you, yes, that's exactly what's going to happen, run, right? Like they're either from the future or they're into some kind of witchcraft. I don't think anybody really knows. The issue would be that, if you buy here, it goes down, you're not going to feel very good. I just don't know if it's going to go down. That's the thing. I just don't know if it's going to go down. I'm going to go back to the SOFI chart here. Let me get rid of the Palantir chart here. I just want to use that as like an illustration in terms of what I think might be happening with SOFI. And one thing that I could look at would be to try to use a Gann chart to try to identify some future targets, resistance, and support level. So I'm going to draw again here. I'm going to do first doing 180. I'm going to change the ratio to 0.1, which is going to give you some really beautiful market symmetry here. Now, why do I think that things are overextended, and why would I not buy, right? Like right at this moment. I'm holding, I'm not selling, but why would I not buy? Because it's at resistance. Initially, you thought that it was going to be at angle resistance. It was a pretty important angle. It got support here, and you would think that it might potentially get rejected over here, right? Nope, pushes through. Where did it go? Well, it just broke through one arc over here and went to another arc, right? We're hitting at the bottom of the arc. Could that be it? Or is it going to hit like the top of the arc? It doesn't matter. Or is it going to get rejected or horizontal zone? It doesn't matter, right? All I know is that it's hitting some pretty strong resistance up here. So I don't necessarily think it's going to plummet down. Although you can totally see where you're hitting the strong resistance levels here, and there is a possibility to come down to $9 and close the gap, right? Or alternatively, I can totally see that if you give it enough time, right now Bollinger support band is around $8. By the time when it comes back and correct, I think Bollinger support band would be able to push up a lot higher, and it might be able to, capture this somewhere around the $9 zone over here, whenever it needs to correct down, right? Same thing with the Ichimoku. Ichimoku gives you this Tenkan and Kijun line down here. If it comes down, maybe these Tenkan and Kijun, the blue and red line over here, will be able to kind of capture that. But you can totally see it potentially coming back down, back test the top of the cloud at $9 and close the gap, don't you? You totally see that happening, don't you? I do, but why am I not selling? Because it's a very powerful bull trend. I cannot guarantee you that it's going to come back and back test the cloud. So what I would do, and this is not financial advice, I'm just saying what I would do is nothing. I will do absolutely nothing. I'll let this play out, because the other alternative is going to be this. And the other alternative is going to be if I change, let me get rid of the Ichimoku here. If I changed again to a little bit of a different number, let's say instead of do 180, we do another multiple of 45, which is going to be 360. And then we're going to do the same ratio here at 0.1. And that gives you a very different picture. This also gives you a really beautiful market symmetry, where price just kind of stuck between these two arcs here, the yellow arc and the blue arc here, for quite some time. And eventually, this is a very impulsive break above the arc and break through the horizontal line over here. Where's price going to end up grabbing to? $14. $14 is the target. I can also see this scenario play out. I can see a scenario where things are just way overextended over here. And what is going to happen? Well, it could potentially just kind of go sideways. It doesn't have to come down here and close the gap. If it comes down, it just maybe even backtest the arc over here, 9.2, 9.3, and then just kind of front run the gap close and just keep going up a lot higher, right? Or it could just keep going parabolic because it's not having like a toppy candle like it did over here. It could just keep gravitating up to the arc over here around like $14. Hit the top of the arc, which is going to be even like over 14, right? I see this as a possibility too. I don't know. I would not want to bet against such a strong, powerful bull trend. It's the same thing I was showing you with the monthly chart, right? I don't know whether or not it was where Palantir was at before it's going to cool off for like 2 or 3 months, or is Palantir where it's at right now, where it just wants to keep going higher? I don't know the answer to that. Nobody does. So because of that, I have to make a plan. I'm not buying now. If it goes down more, I'll buy more, because this is a very, very powerful bull trend. But I can also see another possibility where it doesn't really do all that, major correction. I can see the possibility where it's simply, and I'm going to draw my, Fib sequence here. I can see a possibility where it corrects down and bounces around the horizontal Gann line over here around 10.5, and this 0.236 level over here around $10. I can see it just kind of bouncing around here for a little bit, cool down its technicals, and then go for bullish continuation by Q1 of 2025 to $14. Very similar to what it did over here. Just kind of cool down around the arc before it pushes through and make another higher high before some major cool down happens. I can totally see that. So those are my two paths. Either it's cooling down somewhere around here. I do not know the exact trajectory, or it's just going to end up shooting up. Those are the two trajectories. Most likely it's going to want to cool down sideways here. If you ask me between those scenarios, probably going to end up cooling down here, maybe around $10 or so, consolidate sideways over, kind of like what it did over here, before making another final push up to like 14 or 15, somewhere around there. Push through the 0.382, wick above it, and then you might close the candle a little bit underneath of that 0.382. Probably need to do a little bit more like a technical cool off or whatever before further bullish continuation. But there's no guarantee that these cool off would have to happen, because again, if you look at a monthly, the Bollinger Band is expanding very, very nicely. So I think a strong bull trend is going to come. I don't know what else is going to happen, but I'm just telling you what I'm doing. Ultimately, I see SOFI going a lot higher by the end of the decade. Ultimately, I see, because of the beginning of a very, very powerful bull trend here. Ultimately, in the trajectory path, I do not know exactly, but ultimately, I can see the potential for it to go up to either the 1.618 or the 2.618 over the next 5 to 7 years. I can see that happening. And if that's the case, I feel compelled to just keep holding on to my shares and just kind of let it do its thing. Anyway, talked a little bit too much about SoFi. I'm very passionate about the stock. Hopefully I end up staying objective for you. Have a good one. Bye.